Hello and welcome to John's Author Diary for the week ending December the 3rd, 2017. I've had a pretty positive week in terms of writing. I finished my first draft of the second book to the collaborative Black Death series, so I'm really pleased that I got to the end of that now. In terms of the story, I feel that my ending was a little bit flat, but this is something that I will sort out in the second draft and really bring out the sense of conflict that I think the scenes need. I also wrote the first draft to a couple of short stories. One of these will probably end up as a prequel to the Black Death series. And I have to say, it's probably one of the darkest stories I've ever written. I mean, it's really dark. And it's not an area that I've really ventured into before with my writing. So it's been really interesting to kind of do that and write from the perspective of the most abhorrent character I could come up with. So the collaborative project has been working really well. As well as the forthcoming Black Death trilogy, we're also going to be launching a podcast in January. Now, this podcast came out of the fact we had a few kind of shared influences, and these influences were anime movies from the 1980s and 90s. And I think our minds were blown that we all had this kind of link to the same kind of films and TV shows. So what we're doing is we're going to do a podcast called Otaku on Writing, which is essentially where myself and the other collaborators watch an anime film or a TV show and look at what we can learn from it as writers. So I know that there are other podcasts out there that do things like review anime films, but I think what we're doing is something a little bit different. And then once we have picked apart a movie, we're then going to brainstorm our own short stories and then write them. So hopefully this will lead to us releasing a monthly collection of short stories. I mean, we might even do things like collaborate on novelettes or novella-length pieces. And I think it'll be a really good way for us to get more used to each other's writing and keep that creative well full. So I'm really excited about that. One of the collaborators has been working on the artwork, and it looks fantastic. And I'm going to be doing things like the sound editing and stuff like that. So we've all got different skills that we bring into it, and I'm really excited about that. Because for some reason that I can't quite fathom, we are now in December 2017. I have written up my quarterly plans for next year, and I'll just give you a kind of quick overview of what I plan in the next 12 months. I've got a book that I'm working on called Blind Gambit, which I've mentioned before. It's set in a video game world, but it's also a way for me to talk about the issues surrounding disability and visual impairment. So my plan is to finish that in Q1 of next year and get that out probably by the start of Q2. I also want to finish all 3 books of the Black Death trilogy, have that edited, have it redrafted, have the covers, have it all ready to go. And again, I think we're going to launch that hopefully in April or May. Just depends on how everything kind of falls into place with that. And obviously with this new podcast, the fact that we'll be writing a short story every month for this, we'll probably be releasing a mini collection of short stories every month going forward, as well as our general releases. So that's really exciting. In Q2, I want to carry on with my Wasteland series. I've already outlined book 4. I like the idea of simmering on the outline for a while, letting that kind of percolate in the back of my mind, and then I can hit the ground running with that as soon as I'm done with Blind Gambit. And then beyond that, I think it just depends on how well the things go with the collaborations. I really want to produce an epic fantasy series, so I'm hoping by the end of next year I'll have made a good start on at least one of those novels. I reread Gene Wolfe's The Claw of the Conciliator this week, which is the second book in his Book of the New Sun series. Now, I read this in 2015 and it blew me away. And it's one of those books that has just stuck with me. I mentioned the other week that I had reread Shadow of the Torturer, so this is a kind of follow-up to that. This book is amazing. I love this world. I love just how much of a puzzle it is to get through, how there's so much going on, has so much strangeness, and so much that I didn't notice on my first read. So it's been a really rewarding experience to revisit that book. And again, I recommend it to anyone who does like novels that are challenging but rewarding at the same time. I've also been listening to the audiobook of Hugh Howey's Machine Learning, and there's 3 stories in that I've listened to over the last week that have been great. These are all set in his Silo series. I think they're called In the Air, In the Mountains and In the Woods. And so I've really enjoyed those. They kind of bring closure to the Silo series, or at least for one of the main characters. So really good, really worth listening to that. The whole collection so far has been great. I've really enjoyed going through that. And finally, a guy called Jerry got in touch with me on my Facebook page to ask me a question about my Wasteland series. He asked me why I hadn't explained what happened to the world, why the world is the way it is. And my answer to that is, how could I explain it? The story is written from the perspective of a person, and it's his story, it's Abel's story. And I don't know whether knowing, the world was destroyed by a nuclear explosion or whether it was destroyed by asteroids or anything like that would actually make a difference to the story. And I'll be clear, I do know what happened to the world. And there are a lot of clues placed throughout as to what happened. Let's just say that it's not just one thing. And when people read the final book in the series, I think a lot of the questions about the world and the nature of the world will be answered. And a lot of the clues that I've planted all along will start to make sense. So he got in touch with me through my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/John Cronshaw author. You can also email me. It's john@johncronshaw.com. If you visit johncronshaw.com, you can download the prequel to my Wasteland series called Addict of the Wasteland. Or if you just want to start with the novels, go to tinyurl.com/Wizard of the Wasteland. So until next time, cheerio.